So, Google. Remember that whole don't be evil thing?
Yeah.
Well, their new AI ethics guidelines kind of have some people wondering if they're maybe, I don't know, straying a bit from that path.
Yeah, it's definitely got people talking, that's for sure.
So today we're going to, unpack all this, see what exactly has changed and why it's causing so much debate.
Sounds good.
Oh, and we're also going to look at how these updates could affect, Google's reputation, right? And why people are really starting to push for more transparency in the world of AI.
Yeah, all really important stuff and a lot to cover.
It is, yeah. And all this is based on, this really interesting article we found. It's by Jay Poole, and that AI thing they work with.
Oh, yeah, I've seen their stuff.
Yeah, so it's over on their YouTube channel, TechFrontiers.
Okay.
So, what we're seeing here with Google, it feels like a pretty big shift.
Right, yeah, it's definitely moving away from those, strict rules they had before.
Right.
And more towards guidelines that are, well, I guess you could say they're a little more open to, different interpretations.
And that seems to be what's making a lot of people, nervous.
Understandably.
Yeah. And the article, it really points out how Google's AI principles back in 2018, they were pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
No AI for weapons, absolutely no tech. It's designed for, mass surveillance. It really seemed like a pretty, solid ethical framework.
Yeah, it did. It really did at the time.
But then you fast forward to today, and these new guidelines, well, it feels like they're softening their stance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, no, absolutely not, it's more like, well, with appropriate oversight and, as long as it aligns with these international laws,
yeah,
which, let's be honest, everyone interprets them differently.
Exactly.
It's just, it all sounds so vague now.
Yeah.
Who even decides what appropriate oversight even is in those situations?
Well, that's exactly the problem. I mean, Google says, this flexibility, it's necessary because the field's constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm. I get that.
But then you have the critics, right?
Right.
They're worried that this could, open the door to decisions that, they put profit before ethics.
That's a great point. And that's something the article really, really digs into. They make this connection between all these changes and, the whole surveillance thing that's happening globally.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Governments are already, they're ramping up their monitoring, right? And with AI, well, it could just make it that much easier, that much faster.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all happening at a time when, people already don't really trust big tech.
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah, I can definitely see why this whole thing with Google, it's making people think of, a Big Brother scenario. Where's the line between security and just, total control?
It's getting blurry, that's for sure.
It is, yeah. Yeah, and that's a point. Jay Poole and Seven, they really drive that home in their analysis.
Yeah, sure.
It's not just about how the public sees all this, right?
Right.
The article, it's saying this could actually, really hurt Google's reputation, especially if, their AI ends up getting used in ways that people just, see as ethically wrong.
Yeah. If Google's just seen as this company that's, all about the money and not about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It could really damage people's trust in them.
Oh, absolutely. And in the tech world, trust is everything.
It is. It really is. So, okay, so how do they fix this?
Yeah.
What does it say they should do?
Well, the big thing they keep coming back to is radical transparency.
Really showing what they're doing.
It's not enough to just say what your principles are. Right. You got to show how you're actually using them, in your work.
It's almost like saying, trust us, we're the good guys, but then not showing any proof.
Yeah.
You got to prove that you're making ethical choices, every step of the way.
Exactly. It's about accountability, right? Mm-hmm. It's showing the world, hey, we're really thinking about this stuff. It's not just talk.
Yeah, they're actually putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay, so transparency, it's a good start, but is that really enough?
It's a big part, for sure. But the article, it also says Google needs, someone else looking over their shoulder.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
They can't be the only ones making sure they're doing the right thing.
Right, checks and balances.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
They need to bring in, people from the outside, experts, organizations, even, the public.
So, make sure everything they're doing with AI is actually, ethical.
Exactly, yeah. Think about it. You're developing this technology that could, change the lives of billions of people.
Right.
You can't just be in your own little bubble.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You need other people's opinions. You need to make sure you're not going off the rails.
Exactly. Yeah. You need all this checks and balances.
So it's becoming this whole collaborative thing, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's really interesting. It's not just those internal ethics committees anymore.
Right.
It's like we need a global conversation about this.
Wow.
We got to figure out, like, how do we make sure AI is developed responsibly, and like everybody's got to be a part of that.
So it's becoming like its own field almost.
It is, yeah.
Like all these people, philosophers, ethicists, tech people, policymakers, they're all having to come together to figure out these like massively complex questions.
It's pretty fascinating. And the article really gets at that, like the urgency of it all. Like we have this incredibly powerful technology, right? And the choices we're making now, I mean, they're going to shape the future in ways we can't even imagine.
Okay, so we've talked about, you know, how Google's changed their AI principles, how it could affect their reputation, and like this need for more transparency and oversight.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean for like, you know, for regular people?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Like, are we heading towards, you know, AI being this force for good, like helping us solve all these problems, climate change, poverty, all that? Or are we, I don't know, kind of sleepwalking into this like dystopian future, you know, where everything we do is being watched by AI?
That's the big question, right? And the article doesn't pretend to know all the answers.
Right.
But it does, you know, say we need to pay attention to all this and be a part of the conversation. We can't just sit back and like accept whatever Google or any of these companies, you know, throws at us.
We've got to be like critical, right? Ask questions and demand, I don't know, more transparency, more accountability.
Exactly, yeah. The future's not set in stone.
Right.
The choices we make now, like, they matter individually, but also, you know, as a society.
So thinking about our listeners, right? Like, what are the big takeaways? What should they keep in mind with all this?
I think the biggest thing is, like, ethics in tech. It's not just about following the rules, you know? It's got to be this ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
Because as tech changes, the ethical stuff, it changes too.
It's almost like you're trying to hit a moving target.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
The problems we're facing, they're changing right along with the technology.
Exactly. And that's why, like, you got to stay informed, you know? You can't just assume these companies are always going to do what's best for everyone.
We got to be, like, informed consumers. Understand what AI can do, the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And then, like, hold these companies accountable.
Absolutely. And this isn't just a Google thing, right?
Right.
What we talked about today, it's happening everywhere. As AI becomes more and more a part of our lives, these conversations about ethics, accountability, oversight, I mean, we got to be having them everywhere.
This whole deep dive, it's definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
I'm definitely more aware of, like, what questions to ask.
Yeah. And if you're listening, definitely check out the article we talked about today. Google's New AI Ethics, Navigating Big Brother Concerns. It's by Jay Poole and their AI partner, Seven. They do some great work over on TechFrontiers YouTube.
Yeah, it's a great place to start if you want to learn more about, you know, AI ethics and what's at stake with all this.
For sure.
And we'd love to hear from you guys, you know, the listeners. What are you hoping for with AI? What worries you? Let us know down in the comments.
Yeah, we love hearing from you. Until next time, stay curious and keep those deep dive suggestions coming.